For this tutorial, you will need a tape measure, your scissors, pins, elastic, whatever size you want to use. I'm using 1/2 inch size elastic. Fabric, about 2 yards of fabric, depending on what your size is. You could, if you feel you need more, you can go 2.5, but you'll probably just need 2 yards of fabric. You'll need your rose petal applique, or rose applique, and this is what I'm using, and this is the iron on version. Finally, you will need Heat and Bond Ultra Hold No Sew iron on adhesive, and this is the kind that I will be using. And you can get this from Walmart or whatever craft store you shop from. This I ordered off of eBay, so if you want to do a search, you can just go ahead and search for flower applique or rose applique, and that should bring up some results. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so first step, we will measure the bust area. So whatever that measurement is for you, mark that down. Measure your hip area. Again, whatever that is for you, mark that down. Next, measure out your sleeve length. So that will be just below the shoulder to about the midsection of your arm. So again, this is kind of sloppy, but it doesn't have to be precise, just have an idea of where you want it to fall. And once you have that measurement, go ahead and write that down. Measure your bicep area. And we will do around the shoulders. Now, if you can't do this on your own, it's okay to ask for help. These are like quick measurements that you can take. So ask a friend, your husband, your son or daughter, someone to just help you get those measurements. And then finally, we want to measure from the top of your bust area to where you want your top to fall. So I want mine to fall slightly below my hip area. So that's the measurement that I will be using. This is not how it's meant to be. So go ahead and mark out your measurements on your fabric. Remember that you want your fabric to lay, or your stripes to lay vertical, and that's the lines should go from up to down. So mark out your length. Make sure to add 1 inch for seam allowance, and then add another inch for the fold where you'll be placing your elastic. So mark that out and mark where you're going to be cutting that, and then make sure that the width corresponds with the largest part of your body that you measured, plus the added length for, I would call that ease, so that you're able to move around in your top. So mark that out. My fabric is already folded to that length, so I should be good. So once you mark those out, you can go ahead and cut out your fabric. Make sure you have 2 pieces. So I'll go ahead and cut the other side. But if you have, I don't know, if you have like single pieces of fabric, make sure you cut out 2 pieces, one for the front and one for the back. Okay, so the next step that we're going to do is cutting out our sleeves. Make sure that your stripes are going horizontal for the sleeves. So the body, it was vertical from the top to the bottom. For the sleeves, we will be cutting, or the pattern should be going from left to right or side to side. So mark out your measurements that you figured out for your sleeve, and then mark out the length as well. And then you can go ahead and cut those out. Okay, so the next step is we will be measuring and cutting out the bell part. So I think I forgot to mention that you have to measure out the bell length. So that would be midsection from your arm to wherever you want your bell part to fall. So I will have mine falling somewhere there. And so once you figure out those measurements, the next step, like I said, we will be measuring that out. The bell part is the same as cutting out a circle skirt. So if you have seen my previous video, I give you ways that you can figure out how to cut out the circle. So I suggest that you go back into that video and figure out the measurements that you need. But for this, I know that the measurements for my circle skirt are about 5.25, and so you will mark that out, and I will just give you a screenshot of what you need for those measurements, just in case you haven't seen my other video. This is not how it's meant to be. But I really do suggest take a look at it, and it will make things easy for you. So this is the arm part, and we will go ahead and mark out the length that we figured out. Okay, so that's what you should have, and this should correspond with your sleeve measurement. Okay, so that is how that ends up being attached. Okay, so you're gonna need, you're gonna have, now I forgot to mention, you know, you can have your bell sleeves whichever direction you want them going. I didn't really check for that, so this is the direction that we're gonna have for that. So you're gonna have 2 bell sleeves. You will have 2 sleeve parts for your sleeves, and you will have 2 parts for the body. Okay. So the next step is we are going to be marking out our armhole. I am going to mark out 3 inches, about 3 inches in and 3 inches down. Okay, so mark that out, 3 inches in and 3 inches down. Okay, and then cut Notice that I folded my two pieces of fabric in half. So this is the effect that you get. You get an armhole on one side, an armhole on the other side. Actually, let me change those measurements. Let's do 4 down. Only because we are going to be folding this in half, and that's going to be really tight in your armpit area. So let's go down 1 more inch. Okay. And there's no like secret formula to doing this. A tip I would give you is you can go ahead and measure, or try to measure, your armpit and see how far it goes, and then you can mark that out over here and go with that. But usually a safe measurement is about 3 or 4 inches. I could have gone in 4 as well. So between 3 or 4, you should be good. So once we do that with the body, we want that to correspond with our sleeves. So get your sleeves. So you want that to correspond with your sleeves. Make sure, remember that your sleeves are going horizontal. So fold that, to make this easier, I'm just gonna fold both of them at the same time and then lay them on top of each other. And notice that I'm not working with pins. If you feel your fabric is going to be moving around, go ahead and pin your fabric in place so that you don't have to worry about fabric moving around and all that, but it doesn't really matter to me, so I'm okay. So that's what we have. Make sure that matches that. And just another note, make sure that your, I don't know if this is selvage or your raw edges, make sure your raw edges are facing out. And so you'll be cutting your armhole from your raw edge into the fabric. So that's just something to remember. So that's what you have. So this is what your armhole, so this is what your arms are going to be looking like as well. Sorry, this is the body. These are the arms. Yeah, so this is what it's going to look like. Okay. Okay guys, now the fun part, the sewing. So you want to pin your bell part to your sleeve, just like I have done here, and then you can go ahead and sew that down. Notice that I have a bit of some fabric left. No biggie, that's fine. Once you sew that down, you can go ahead and close up your sleeve and just make sure you close it up, and if you need to cut out part of this fabric, that's okay. Okay, so after you do your sleeves, you can go ahead and sew down the body. I have pinned mine together, so you can go ahead and do that, sew that down, and we'll come back to the rest of the tutorial.